Hey, I'm Steve Werner, the creator and the founder of Hour of Champions, and I am here today with Colin Egglesfield, author of Agile Artist.
What's up, Steve? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is unbelievable, and we were just chatting about how we met less than a month ago, and serendipity, what it means, in general, and how this concept of a book club was introduced to me about 6 weeks ago, and I wound up heading to a spiritual conference shortly after that, and I was actually asking for an author to find their way into my life,
and you were in New Mexico.
I was in New Mexico,
Chicago, and I actually heard you, and that's why I'm here.
That is well, thank you for answering my message.
You're welcome.
I've been told over and over, when you put things out to the universe in a very unselfish way, things like that happen. And it did, again, miraculously. I was asking the universe for an author, and I came home from New Mexico, and I got a text. I looked at my phone, and it said Colin Egglesfield with an area code that I was unfamiliar with. So how did that happen?
Well, I think the universe has this an amazing way of connecting people when, like you were saying, when you were in alignment. And having just put out my book, I've been looking for a way to promote it, to get it out there. And it's funny how it's almost as if like we have antennas, and that when we put something out there, somehow, some way, someone like our mutual friend Frank Montreux is that intermediary where it's like, oh, well, I know Steve, I know Colin, this is what they're up to. And this is one of the reasons why I love being back here in Chicago, because I feel like the power of community, because I'd be working on these sets in Hollywood, and I mean, there's 100 people on a film set, and each person, whether it's the lighting guy or the guy that is rigging the scrim to make sure that the sun isn't too bright on your face, or it's the stylist or the makeup artist, everyone has a specific job, and no one job is more important than the other. And what we talk about with regards to community, it takes an army to do anything big, grand, important, and this is what I'm recognizing as well with what you're doing with Hour of Champions. You've got an amazing community of people. You guys do your crazy 4 o'clock in the morning wake up, and me personally, I'm not a morning person, and this is why I'm excited to do this, because you're going to be kicking my butt and challenging me and pushing me out of my comfort zone, because that's what I talk about and what I mentioned in my book. In order to have growth, in order to really achieve our greatness and create more fulfillment in our lives, a lot of it has to do with getting out of your comfort zone, trying new things, and the only way in which you're going to grow and continue to have more fulfillment in life is if you are consistently being pushed to bigger, better, greater places in your life, and that's exactly what you do.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to be clear that it doesn't have to be 4 o'clock in the morning, right? It's my inherent belief that everybody has to establish their personal hour of champions, but it's also my belief that the waking hour is the most important, useful hour of your day and in your life. That you can find time super early in the morning, really, really valuable time that you didn't even know that you had, and create energy, and that's what I've done. I've taken my own life experience, and much like you, like I've always been on the smaller end of the spectrum, but I traded in the bond pit at the Chicago Board of Trade, where my 5'8", 160-pound frame wasn't as valuable as a guy that was 6'4", 220. I was battling bigger people.
You're actually like physically having to push to get trades done, right?
You couldn't get a piece of notebook paper in between me and the guy I stood next to. It was chest to back. There were 600 guys in the area the size of a tennis trained rigorously in those days because it was a battle,
What drove you to not want to lose? Was it the money? Was it the pride? What was it that made you get down there in that pit and want to get these trades done?
Well, yeah, good question. I've heard this several times about people that are more driven to not lose than to win. Even since I'm a young kid involved in sports or anything, I never took losing well. And the reality is, when you're losing in the trading community that I was in, and this wasn't indicative of all the trading pits in the world, but the bond pit in particular was a physical battle as well as, you know, the business battle. So I trained myself for that. And, you know, moving forward just through my own life experiences and creating the Hour of Champions, where I believe that being physically, mentally, and spiritually conditioned was going to serve me the best for just battling life, right? Like, life is a beautiful journey, but you get blindsided all the time.
Yeah.
And if you're not physically conditioned to deal with the, you know, the stress and overwhelm, mentally conditioned, and what I learned last and the hardest way, spiritually conditioned, you're susceptible to, you know, getting overwhelmed, living in fear, being depressed, all that stuff. But I've created a protocol, so to speak, and I know mind, body, and spirit is very cliche-ish, but when you do it in a consolidated hour every single day that you wake up and you look forward to, it creates this energy and this power that drives you through the day. And when things come your way, you're able to just, you know, to not just deal with them, but almost destroy the myths that get put in your path. Because it's our minds that, you know, that, as you described so eloquently in your book, and that I know from life experience, that can take us over very quickly. So.
Yeah. So what I love about this, and what I'm excited to be about a part of the Hour of Champions platform, is that what I've recognized is it doesn't matter how talented you are, it doesn't matter how positive your intentions are, it really comes down to how motivated and how committed are you to actually go out into the world, put yourself out there in these vulnerable situations, and to keep battling every day. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a battle, but just to be able to get up in the morning and be inspired to live your best life. And the analogy I use is I've been an actor now for 20 years of my life, and I've had so many acting classes where I've met so many incredibly talented actors. I mean, Academy Award level actors, and for whatever reason, they had these limiting beliefs that prevented them from going out and getting the agent, from confidently walking into these auditions where you've got 20 people staring you down, almost like, you know, you're looking down the barrel of a gun.
Right.
And it's these mental roadblocks that prevent us from really truly having the lives that we know in our heart, in our, you know, in our spirit that we want to have. And this up here gets in the way so many times.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as an actor myself, I recently moved back from Hollywood because as you know, I've gone on this journey of pursuing being on the top stages in the world. It was almost as if like the journey getting there was more rewarding, and I felt more growth getting there. And once I got there, I started to feel I was stagnating, I was plateauing. And so I decided I needed to create a new environment for myself. I needed to find a new challenge for myself. So I decided to move back to Chicago, not really necessarily knowing what it was going to look like, but what I've realized and recognized in life is that you've got to listen to your instincts and you've got to listen to your gut. And for the longest time, I was always listening to the advice of other people against what I was feeling was the right way to do something, and it always got me in trouble.
You wind up living their life instead of living your life.
Right, and then you wonder why you're miserable.
Yeah, no, that's happened to me also.
Yeah, and I was just watching something with John Travolta the other day, and he said, it's always more fulfilling to fail on your own terms than to do a movie or a project on someone else's terms and have that fail. And so I've just started to get more courageous about going out and truly sharing who I am, because as an actor, it's ironic because I'm up in front of millions of people on, you know, TV and film and people's living rooms, but I felt people really didn't know who I was personally, and I almost felt invisible. Right.
Yeah.
And agents and managers, they're always like, you know, you got to have a low profile and you got to remain mysterious, but then I was like, well, I kind of feel like I'm hiding then. And so the more I've started to get active on social media, the more I've just started to put myself out there. the more fulfilling life has gotten for me. And that's what I talk about in my book, Agile Artist, is it's all about getting out of your house even. Just get out, go meet people, go join an organization, join a Facebook group, start exposing yourself to other ideas and thoughts. And this is why I'm here right now, and I'm excited to be a part of this, because it sounds like you've got a great community of people from all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And I always get inspired by people who are doing creative and inspiring things. So,
well, I'll tell you the thing that I loved while listening to your book, I listened to it on Audible, was the transparency, and it reminded me so much about myself. Just a lot of people hide in their own story, and they're afraid to tell it. And when you tell your story, number one, it's like a gigantic cleansing. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's all out on the table.
Yeah.
And then you get to like pick the pieces back up and put yourself together however you want. You know, and I was listening to your story, and I got so much of that about myself, because I had this wonderful trading career, and then it ended in the year 2000 because technology took over my world. It was out of my control, right? I know what's in my control, what's out of my control. I couldn't separate the fact that computers were going to take over the human element. So that was it. I chalked it up to a great experience, and I wound up getting involved in a family-owned business that I was a large investor in, and so were many of my friends. And upon arrival, it turned out to be a gigantic disaster. And, you know, much like listening to you, I had choices. I could either try to save this thing that I had no like integral involvement in to begin with, or I can let it go and then I lose a bunch of my money, my friends do. And my younger brother and I was 40. I come home, I said to my wife, what happened? Like, I just had this amazing career, and now I get dropped, this bomb dropped in me, and we reorganized the business, and we saved it. And the odds were 50-1 against us, that's for sure. And several years later, when we were humming along and we had this wonderful business, I walked into his office, I said, what's the matter? And he said, well, you know what's the matter. And I said, no. He said, the fun was in the war. The fun was in putting it back together, you know, and coming in every day with sleepless nights and wondering if we can make payroll and who fit where and can we make this work. And now we're humming along and making money. It's no fun anymore, you know. You know?
It's funny how life works like that.
And it really is, but you know, I need to be reminded of that once in a while. So thank you. You know, and overcoming challenges has been, you know, part of my life, you know.
So what would you say is the whole idea behind Hour of Champions?
You know, it's this symbiotic approach to conditioning so that you can combat life's challenges and consistently be the best version of yourself. You know, I think that you need to be, and I said this on the onset, conditioned to combat life. And if you are, then you can keep growing and rising, like incrementally. I stress like incremental little advancements every single day, so you don't get to this level of complacency where you just stop, right? I'm 60 years old, and I heard this great quote the other day from Junior Soprano. It said, we can fill a book with what you don't know, you know? And there's so much I don't know about health, fitness, spirituality, the mental side, but I could, if I pursue it, I could keep getting better and always be a better version of myself. And if I could radiate that to the world and people buy into my Hour of Champions concept and share that, and it just creates strength and community, and we could solve a massive problem by helping people get stronger, you know, along the way.
We're excited to launch our book club January 17th, and one thing that I've recognized is that it doesn't matter how many positive thoughts you have or how well-intentioned you may be. It's all about accountability, right? And with this 6-week book club launching on January 17th, we're going to be doing 3 live group Zoom calls where people from all over the world are going to be able to call in, ask questions. We're going to be able to communicate and talk about what's in my book, and we're going to do it in a fun and inspiring way. We're going to be creating an amazing future for ourselves to live into, because that's what truly gets you motivated and off the couch and into creating more fulfillment in your life is by creating that inspiring future that lights you up so that when you wake up in the morning, it's not about, oh God, I got to get through the day and how can I accomplish this stuff. It's about, you know what, these are the things that I need to do in order to really create that exciting future that I know that is possible for myself. Over the course of 6 weeks in our book club, you'll experience a guided reading experience with exclusive content, providing daily interactive modules, including reflection, vision boarding, and thought exercises that will transform you into an Agile artist. 3 live video calls where we provide real-time support and guide you through your journey. And a private supportive community of like-minded accountability partners, because we are all in this together. So January 17th, click on the link in my bio to sign up today, and we'll see you then.